Fuck it.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Hey, mama. If you are a mom and are tired of the wash, rinse, repeat burnout cycle of motherhood, this podcast is for you. If you feel lonely and isolated in your motherhood journey, this podcast is for you. If you feel like you have completely lost your identity since your babies were born, this podcast is for you. If you feel like every other mom has it together except for you, this podcast is for you. My name is Amanda, and I'm a life coach dedicated to teaching every mom the tools she needs to liberate herself off the back burner. I am living proof that a woman can be present and loving to her kids while also being a whole-ass person outside of being that kid's mom. The secret? Learning when to say fuck it. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Fuck It Mothering. I am your host, Amanda Haro, and I have another awesome guest, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Olivia Ganguzza. I'm owner of Live Connections. And basically my company, and I have like a long journey of how I got here, but my company helps executives, C-suites, and leaders. And when I say leaders, that's really a lot of like high-performing women who are getting shit done, basically, and are feeling very overwhelmed by all of life's obligations. I help them connect with clarity and confidence to meet their ideal outcomes.
Awesome. I love that so much. So what is your journey? Like, what was your journey to getting to what you do now?
Yeah. So I feel like it starts in childhood, right? Like for all of us, but my whole life, I think, and where I am now is like a lot of unlearning, like some of the societal pressures that were put on us as women. But my whole life, I was always about being like an overachiever, getting the best grades. Like I played sports, I played basketball. I was on all these like regional all-star teams. I later went on to go play basketball at NYU in college. And so there was just a lot of pressure and the expectation that was really on the outside, right? Like it wasn't necessarily like, I don't think I ever checked in with myself and was like, is this really what I want to do? It was just what I think I thought I was supposed to do.
Right.
So that same type of vibe kind of extended after I graduated college. Everyone was like, get a good job that pays well, that has benefits. That it's like, that dream, I guess it's like the American dream. So I did that too. And I was working a lot because I was, really incentivized by climbing the corporate ladder. I think I really was looking for validation from the next promotion or the next thing. Every time I got a promotion, I think that excitement was fleeting. It wasn't like forever I felt fulfilled and great. Along the way, as I'm in basically the pharmaceutical and healthcare space, I worked at creative agencies. I worked on the manufacturing side. I am rising up through, that ladder, the corporate ladder. And I'm also starting to have a family of my own. So I have 3 boys, and my first son is born, and it's like a whirlwind hits, right? And I'm like, wow, this is so much to be a mom and to also work. At that point, I was, in a senior level position, like second in command at a company. And I'm like, there's just a lot going on here.
Yeah.
And then it's so much.
Yeah.
And then later we found out that my son actually has autism. And that journey, was challenging to get the diagnosis, to find the right treatment for him. All the while still having to work like 70-hour work weeks, right? Like the stress was just so much, like everything was so urgent. So I got to a point where I was like, I need to find some balance so that I can attend these therapy sessions for him. This was like before COVID and everything was Zoom and all of that. There was no options like that. So I needed to go find a company that would allow me to go attend his sessions, which were during the work, the work day, and then like make up for it at night. So right. I was able to do that, but the misery that ensued in that situation, because it was just so much pressure. And honestly, I did not have any tools in my toolbox to manage the stress, to manage the pressure, to check in with myself. I was confident on the outside, but I certainly was not confident on the inside to be like, this isn't the road for me. I'm going to completely change like my career or my life.
I'm sorry. Hang on a minute.
No, it's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Are you kidding? That's probably going to happen in 2 seconds here. So I can totally relate. And I feel like, we're talking about my journey, and I'm going to get to the precipice here, but that example of what just happened with one of your kids coming in, like, to me, but that is life, right?
Yes.
And if the world can be a little bit more accepting of that, which I think we're getting in that realm, gosh, wouldn't things just be so much easier, right? So much less pressure. Like, it's not like, oh my God, in a different situation, if you're on a Zoom call, like, some people are like, I'm going to get fired because my kid came in or whatever. It's like, if you can relieve some of that pressure, wouldn't it just be so much better? And I think we're getting there. But
yeah, we're slowly getting there. It's just, it's an issue of gender roles, really, because the workplace as it is constructed right now was constructed by men for men. Who didn't have an active role in family life. They got to punch in, punch out to both work and their family life. So the way that the workforce and what we consider to be professional and unprofessional, it's all based off of men for men who don't have to balance a family life. And now that women, over the last however many decades have been coming into the workforce more and more, we're now it's like, now this does not work. It simply does not work. And, before in like the 80s and 90s, I feel like women who succeeded in the corporate spaces could only succeed if they did it a man's way. And so you had this imbalance of women who, and some women just prefer this, and that's totally fine. The point is that we should all be able to get to choose, but like, they had to forsake family life in order to have a career life. And so now I feel like our generation is doing such a good job of talking about like, hey, this does not work, period, end of story, for people, because now men have a greater role in family life too. This does not work for people who want to have both a family life and a career life. And we have to change the workforce, and like the just work culture needs to change.
Well, I experienced that very, very much. I felt like there was a point in my career that I wasn't able to talk about my family. I wasn't able to be excited and proud, and also talk about some of the stuff that was really hard. And I got to a crossroads where basically I had my third child. Everything that I was talking about before with going through, a child who has special needs and needing extra therapy while working full time and climbing the corporate ladder. And I had everything that I was supposed to have on paper, right? I had the job, I had the husband, I had the house with the white picket fence, and I had the kids. But I was struggling immensely. Like, the pressure of all of life's obligations, whether it was something like goodie bags at school all the way to board meetings, I felt the world crushing down on me. And I had this moment where I thought I had a mini stroke. I called my doctor. I'm like, I had like severe pain in my head and half my body went numb and I can't really see well. He's like, get to the hospital immediately.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going thinking I'm having a mini stroke. And the whole time I'm like, see, like, stress is killing me. Like, it's done it, like whatever. Ends up, not that like being sick is any better, but it was a migraine cycle, definitely stress induced.
A migraine can make your body go numb?
Yes. And it all depends on, like, I know. And that's why people who suffer from severe migraines, it's scary and awful and all of that. But just that little like, oh my gosh, like, your life situation is your physical demise right now. I was like, something has to change. And that's when, for me, I kind of went on this personal journey to live life more authentically, to find ways to de-stress, to figure out a way to have balance, and also feel like fulfilled. Like, if you're going to spend 8 hours a day doing something, shouldn't you feel kind of good at the end? Like, I know you don't always get to, but I'd like to. So, right. So I read books, listened to podcasts. I had coaches who worked with me. I did courses, seminars. Then I got certified to teach on some of these different topics. And I just was like obsessed. So I got to a certain point where I was like, if I only had a sliver of some of these tools and strategies and mindsets that I have today, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, oh my gosh, if I was in high school, I'd probably be running the world right now. I would be in such a better spot. I want to share that information with other women. So that brought me to open up Live Connections, where I do exactly that. Like and you don't have to have like this crazy high powered job to be a high performing woman, to be a leader. You could just be someone who is doing a lot in your life for the people around you, whether you're working or not working. And you are feeling that pressure to the point where maybe it's like, physical, like, like me, where you're getting sent to the hospital, or if it's emotional. I help those women and companies now who, have a lot of women employees to do, different things to get them to a place where you're clear and confident on like how you can make your life the best that it can be. So that's my journey. I'm sorry that it took so long to tell it, but
do not apologize.
Yeah. So that's where I am now. And when you and I connected, I felt even like, the name of this podcast or like the name of your brand, that in itself, like almost is in like empowering, right? Like, and does tap into, sometimes we have to do that. You kind of can't be living by all of society's life's expectations. You kind of have to do what works best for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you do. Because otherwise you're just another cog in the wheel, and you just live a life where you're just kind of going through the motions and your soul unfulfilled. And so you're constantly going to feel like the stress and the overwhelm of a soul unfulfilled. But in order to like align yourself with like what's best for you, you have to be able to say fuck it. And that's why I named my business what I named it. And most of the time I attract people who are like, hell yeah, I love that. Sometimes I will run into people who are like more pearl clutchers and just like, you might offend people, right? And like, those aren't my people, and it's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Those aren't your people, and that's okay. And I think that's another thing. If you're a high performing woman, a lot of us have to unlearn that we don't have to be likable to everyone.
Right.
And that was a hard one for me because I always wanted everyone to like me, and I would adapt myself, maybe, sometimes like surface level values or boundaries, whether it was in the workforce or somewhere else, to be likable. At the end of the day, not everybody is for everybody. And the sooner we can all like accept that, and like I tell my kids that now, and I don't think anybody really told me that, then you can be okay with the fact that like, oh, that person doesn't like me. It doesn't hurt me emotionally that person over there doesn't like who I am. That's great. Right. That's your business, and that's wonderful. Go find people that you like. I'll continue to connect with the people that are aligned on the same values and themes, and that's true connection, right? Like that's authentic connection. So I agree with that. Like, do what you need to do and attract the person that's going to be best for what you're trying to accomplish. And that's exactly it.
Yes, exactly. And the fact of the matter is like, if you can't handle an F-bomb, you're not going to want to be coached by me for an hour in a Zoom room. Like, you're not going to want to be in a Zoom room with me for an hour or probably any amount of time. And that's fine. And, my favorite phrase to like help realign myself with like, it's okay if some people don't like me, is you can be the juiciest peach in the world, and there's still going to be people who just don't like peaches. Right. And it's fine that they don't like peaches. They aren't wrong for not liking peaches, and you are not wrong for being a peach. Just go find the peach people.
Right. Exactly. That is a really good analogy. That's really good.
Yeah.
I have another thought to like add to this to give perspective. Someone once said to me, because the work that I do infuses mindfulness into everything, right? So I kind of take all of my like corporate skills that I've learned over the years, how I've like coached people on the company side, right? And help mentor them and promote them. So I take all of that, but then all of the mindfulness that I learned on my journey, which to me was so mind opening, like mind blowing, I infuse that into everything. And when you practice mindfulness, usually you start to vibrate higher, right? And you start to have a different vibration, a different energy. You attract different things. And when that happens, the people around you are like, wait, where's that old Olivia or that old Amanda that I'm, what's going on here? This feels different. This feels weird. And someone once said to me, when you vibrate high, people will either run the fuck towards you or get the fuck out of the way, because that's it. It's either when you're vibrating at a certain level, it's going to be very uncomfortable for people and they're going to want to run away, and that's fine. Yep. And then there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to come. So anyway, just to add to that, it's true. And you just have to be okay with it, which I feel like can be hard for so many of us.
Yeah. It is. And it's really hard for people who are socialized as women, because every woman, regardless of whether she like identifies as a high performer or not, every single woman is socialized to be a people pleaser.
Yep. Yes. 100%.
We all are. We're all socialized to anticipate other people's needs and to do emotional damage for them, to manage their emotions. We're socialized to put our own stuff like down in order to be of service to other people. And so, yeah, it's a huge mindfuck for all of us when we're adults, and, you can kind of like, you in your corporate career, trying to balance the career and the family life and just trying to be everything to everyone. You can feel the stress of it, but you're not exactly sure like how to get out of that. Because the socialization runs so deep, and most people don't even really know that it's there.
Right.
They'll just think it's like a them problem.
Exactly. And how would you know unless you started to explore that and deconstruct it, right? And, the other thing is like when you were just talking about like trying to be everything to everyone, a big part of what I do is like, there's always like a strategy aligned to like a tactical execution, right? And that's like the corporate side and the corporate speak. For years, I would be like sent out to like, Europe to go do like a core value workshop and identify the values of the company that they were going to instill and then teach all their other employees, right?
Right.
I never did that exercise for myself. So here I am doing it for all these big companies, right? They spend all this money because it is so important to identify values that are basically the path for you to do anything, right? Right.
Because that's when you need to make a decision. You can bounce it off of your values.
Right. And it really helps be that like guide mark for how you navigate life. So that to me is very like, that is something that I do with a lot of my clients in different workshops. Is most of us, I think you could say things like, oh my God, yeah, like I love my family, that's a core value. I'm a good person. I like to be kind, core value. Well, take it to the next level. Cause we can all say that, but that's really like umbrella values. Right. And sometimes it can be hard to use that as a lens when you're like making a big decision, or you're deciding who is this person that you want to be at work and at home. How do you balance it in a way that makes you feel authentic and also doesn't drive you into the ground? How do you do that? And I feel like the first step is to identify your core values in a way that's like very, very specific. So I work with my clients on that and I don't, Amanda, you probably have some version of this, but it's basically identifying like what those core values are. And when you do that, there's a lot of like exploration that goes into it to create those core values. Once you get them, then you can start to be like, okay, I'm feeling like what you just said before, like I'm feeling like I'm everything to everyone. Okay, so does that align to your core values? And like, you'll start to see like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Like me saying yes to every project that comes across the plate or every like school PTO thing because you want to feel like, you're being a good mom or a good participant or a good employee. That's not working for you right now. And does it even align to your core values? Like, probably not. So why are you doing it?
Right. Exactly. So, like, are you doing the PTO stuff because you actually really enjoy it? Or are you doing it out of like this lower level of shame and guilt because you feel bad for your job and the hours that you're spending away from your kids and you're trying to compensate?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then from there, I don't know if you do anything like this either, but I have like I call it the triple D exercise. And it's basically listing out like everything in your life that you do, like, which is crazy that even that exercise takes time and can be daunting, but you could start, right? You just start journaling. You're like, I do laundry, I brush my teeth, I get my kids dressed, I pack their lunches, blah, 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 right? Then you go through and you're like, okay, is this something that I can ditch altogether? Like, if I don't like it, can I ditch it? Then the next thing is, can I delegate it? Like, if I really don't like it, if it's not energy filling, which is something that I like someone told me that like a couple weeks ago and I was like, oh my God, I love that phrase. I'm using it all the time. It's not so much about joy, because not every task gives you joy, but is it energy filling or energy draining? If it's energy draining, like, you got to figure out, can you ditch it or delegate? Or do you decide to have a different mindset about it? And I did this for myself, and I stopped doing printed Christmas cards. I listed everything out that I like have to do, right?
Yes,
and this one I was like,
to.
Right. I'm like, I hate it. I hate that I have to like somehow plan a photography shoot that feels up to the standards of the world at like Thanksgiving time when it's crazy and nobody wants to do it. My kids are complaining. I'm complaining. I'm sweating in the photo shoot. I paid all this money. Then I get the pictures back. Now I have to pick the perfect holiday card. Then I have to find everyone's addresses, which where the hell are they? Right? Like they're half on a computer, half on my phone, half on scribbles in my desk. I'm like, and then you have to postmark them and send them. And I just said, you know what? I think I can ditch this, and I'm just going to post something digitally, and it's going to be like fun photos from the year. Doesn't have to be a photo shoot. And it was amazing. It was amazing. It was awesome. And not everything you can ditch, right? But there are some things where you start to think about it. You're like, am I, like you said, am I doing this because of the societal expectations or, how I was raised? What I think I'm supposed to do? Is it because somebody will judge me if I don't? You start to get rid of some of that. And you're like, well, do I actually want to do this? Is it energy filling? Some people will be like, I get such joy out of cultivating a photo shoot and, matching my kids' outfits and then putting a beautiful card together and knowing that someone gets it and feels warmed by my holiday wishes. Then yes, keep that on the list and do it, right? But if it's not like me, then try to figure out a way to not do it, right?
Yes, exactly. Or is the way that I would put it, fuck it. That goes in the fuck it bucket. Like,
ooh, yes, that's
some people are saying fuck it too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I had a client who was like stressed out about Easter baskets, and she had seizures. Like, she was having daily seizures, and the doctors couldn't figure out like exactly what it was. So they were told her just manage your stress, basically, to manage the seizures. And I was just like, do you want to do the Easter baskets? She's like, no, I hate it. She's like, great, fucking ditch it. You get to decide what your family traditions are. Just because like you see Easter baskets splashed on commercials and you see them, in Target when you go shopping, doesn't mean that has to be a part of your family traditions. Find the traditions that you really love that are meaningful to you and hold on to those. And it was just like a moment where she's like, I don't have to do Easter baskets. No, you don't. You don't have to do that. It's okay.
Right. And the other thing is too, not everybody has the financial means, right? But you can also delegate. So
Yeah.
maybe you like the idea of Easter baskets and you don't want to get rid of them. Can you hire someone to do it? Can you exchange services?
Can you loop your
barter?
husband into it? Like, why is all of this on the mom?
Well, that's true. That's true. It's funny. My husband does our Easter baskets because I don't like to do the Easter baskets. So that's like his jam. And he loves it because he's like, as a
Right.
kid, I loved this. I loved doing a little Easter egg hunt or whatever. So that's true. I mean, this is
And
probably
looping the grandmas in too, because my mom actually, when my youngest was like, I think she started this right away. She just like was like, can I please do the Easter baskets? And as a new mom, that was like something I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to do it. But I was like, it meant something to her. So I was like, yes, that's fine. I'm so glad that at the very beginning, I delegated that to my mom, because as I continued having children, I would have very quickly just let that fall off.
Right.
But my mom really enjoys it. So she does that for the kids every year.
That's awesome. And I think what like a little thread that I'm seeing here is being able to ask for help.
Yes.
And it can be that you delegate and you pay someone or something like that, but it's also being able to ask for help, which I think I really, really struggled with. I thought I needed to live up to this persona of somebody who always had it together, to the point where, I'm working these 70-hour work weeks, makeup on, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
And then I would have like friends over and do like a dinner party, but I cooked everything. And so I was up like the 3 nights before, like cooking everything and making it all like Martha Stewart, whatever. And at the end, I'm like literally crashing, right? Because it's ridiculous to think that I would have to do it all. And, there was some praises that came from that. And I think that's probably what I was looking for, that external validation. But really, when I started to work on some of the tools that I'm sure you do with your clients too, and you go within and you start to get validation from within and you start to live more fulfilled because of yourself and not from like the outside world, like that's key. And once I started doing finding more of my confidence from within, I could finally ask for help. So I'm with you. And it doesn't maybe some people don't have grandmas and grandpas around or aunts. Cause I have people like that too, or almost like transplants. And they're like, I have nobody here. I had a friend during this journey. She's an amazing woman. I had 3 kids. Obviously she could see I was probably drowning, and she said, we were new friends because she had just moved here. She's like, I'm going to come and I'm going to take your kids tonight. We're going to do a movie night. I'm going to feed them dinner. I'm going to drop them off in the morning. I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah. So I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't even worry about packing them up. They can all borrow clothes from my kids. She didn't even give me a chance. I felt so uncomfortable, like someone was going to take my kids as, you know what I mean? Like as a favor, because I felt like I didn't pay a babysitter. Like it was so different. I have passed that mentality. And by the way, it was like amazing, right? Because I didn't have to pack a bag. I didn't have to coordinate with a babysitter. I didn't have to figure out when they're coming home. I trusted her. They had the best time ever. I got a good night's sleep, a little bit of peace and quiet. I have passed that along, like that trickle effect. I have done that and offered that to so many of my friends. So you don't always have to get help from like a family unit if you don't have that. You can ask a friend. You really can.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Right. What's the worst?
Like the moral of the story is that like we were never meant to do life in general, but especially motherhood alone. And you look back at like, tribal communities. It was like, you stayed the generational like family, they stayed together and you had a village and a community and everything was done. Like the women would gather together with all the children together. And it's only now in this modern, and I am so curious about this that one of these days I'm going to do a history deep dive to try to figure out like, just to see how that shifted, because it's so fascinating to me that we are so like the complete 180 where like we literally are living in the belief of like, I have to do it all by myself. And if I'm not doing it by myself, it's something wrong with me, that I can't handle it. I'm defective. I can't handle stress. I'm weak. All this stuff that we tell ourselves. And it's just like, if you look at history, it's only very recently that we adopted this idea of like, oh, you decided to have children, so that's on you. You can't be an inconvenience to anybody ever again.
Yeah, it is true. That would be an interesting exploration to see like when that started to happen, because
yeah,
it is very true. Like that saying, it takes a village. I like live that all the time. Like it takes a village to raise a family or raise a kid or whatever. And I believe in that because you can't, especially in today's world, most of us need to be working because we need two incomes, or at least one, you know, to just stay afloat. It's not even to be like amazingly rich or something. It's just to like pay the bills and make sure the kids get fed and like all that stuff. So most of us do have to work. If you don't, that's great too. But you're working, you have your children. And then I think a big part of it too is that we're so exposed. On one side, it's really amazing is that we get to see so many things that we would have never been able to see because of social media and the internet and all of that, right? Like I could literally do a virtual tour of the Eiffel Tower, and I don't know if I'll ever get to see the Eiffel Tower myself personally. So like that is so cool. But on the other side, you are bombarded, right?
Yes.
with the imagery and the stories and the narratives that are pushed out to the internet. And through social media. And it's not really the best bar for what's realistic and what's doable, right? You're seeing snapshots of beauty and perfection, but you're not seeing sustained, you know, like videos that are 8 hours a day of somebody's life because it's not real. Like you can't do it that way. So then there becomes this like, this narrative that we're telling ourselves too, like in order to be a good mom, everybody's got to be in like stain-free matching outfits with like the perfect bow, and their lunches have to have like, you know, you need to have like a starfish cookie cutter or whatever it is. And,
oh my gosh.
You know, whatever. And you know what? If that gives you joy and if it's energy filling, go for it. I am like, we are judgment free, right? But to your point, to have the choice, to feel like you have a choice to say, that doesn't work for our family. Like, we're going to do a Lunchable and that's it, you know? And I'm not going to feel guilty.
Or you're going to eat the lunch at school and come caca if you don't like it, or pack your own lunch if you don't like what they're serving at school, which is what I do in my family. I taught them all to pack their own lunches. And I'm like, look, I will look up the school lunch menu for you. You can decide if you want to take it or leave it. But if you're leaving it, you best pack your own lunch. Otherwise, you're going to have a choice to make next day at school.
Yeah. And how does that go, Amanda, in your house?
It goes fine. Like there was an adjustment period. And sometimes there still is like, they'll forget the night before, because I also got sick of like prompting them to every night to be like, okay, what's for lunch next, you know, tomorrow? Do you want to make yourself a lunch? I got sick of reminding them. So it just got to a point where it's just like, look, you know the drill at this point. So you have to do this for yourself. And I'm also a really big believer in natural consequences. So the natural consequence, if they forget, is the next morning. And they would usually remember like right when we needed to like leave, when I'm saying, okay, get in the car. And then they're trying to frantically grab stuff. And I'm like, no, you will not make your older sister late for school because she goes earlier. Because of your lack of planning. Like, this is just how you're going to learn this lesson. And they're pissed about it. But then when they come home that day, they go and make their lunch basically right away. And it's just waiting in the fridge.
Right. Yeah. That is a hard part too, when your kids are mad. And it's like, well, that's part of life too, right? Like not everybody can be happy all the time. So. Right.
Yeah. I'm just like, tough shit. Get in the car. We're leaving. You had your chance. You know the routine. You know my expectations. And you know that I'm not going to let you make your sister late. I will physically pick you up and put you in the car because it's not her fault that, you know, you did this with your lunch again. So, but like to each their own. And I remember when my oldest started kindergarten, I was looking on Pinterest for like lunch things and the bento boxes and like you were saying, the starfish cookie cutter. I just was laughing because I was putting that expectation on myself.
Me
And I had a
too.
newborn
Me
at that
too.
time. Like, actually, no, she started in the fall and then my youngest wasn't born until December. So I was very pregnant and it was just like tired and I really didn't want to do it, but then I felt like I needed to do it. And there was a part of me that kind of does enjoy some of that stuff sometimes, but only if I have the capacity. Like doing that shit every single day for every lunch, I very quickly was like, no, madam, this is not what we're doing.
I love all that stuff. And I feel like we're all so multifaceted, right? And I think sometimes that's the other kind of lie that we're told is that you kind of have to be like these two things, right? Or whatever it is.
Right.
But we're not. Most of us are not. Like my background's like, if I look at like my corporate stuff, like the stuff that I do is like 10 things, you know, it's not just like marketing, you know, like there's a lot there. When I look at what I'm doing from, you know, like my personal business stuff, like my husband and I have a house flipping company. I do like design work. I have Live Connections, which is, you know, coaching and workshops and all of that. I'm a mom, right? And I am creative and I'm also, you know, task oriented. We can be a lot of different things. It's just what basically is serving you in that moment. Right. And you don't have to be all of them all at once. And you don't have to be any of them if you don't want to. But I feel like that's something that was very like through my journey and learning a lot of these tools and tactics. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not just one thing, and that's okay. I don't have to be. I don't have to choose. And I can infuse different elements of it, right? Like to your point, if you have the time, the capacity, the headspace, the freedom to go make cute little star peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or whatever, hey, you'll do that. But if you don't, you are hopefully, right, all of us can learn that you don't have to have a sense of shame and guilt because you didn't that one day, right? Like
exactly. There's nothing wrong with you on the day when you don't have the capacity to do it. Just because you had the capacity to do it yesterday and today you're like, fuck that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to sit and be like, God, what's going on with me? Normally I love doing this. This must mean that something is like happening or something triggered me. It's like, no, you're just fucking tired today. It's okay.
Right. And I feel like sometimes curiosity is like a big part of being mindful. And it's okay to be curious about, I wonder why I'm not enjoying this today. I think that really brings you to the present moment too, which I have like, not to get like too woo woo and all that, but it's hard. So anxiety comes from worrying. It comes from a lot of things, but one of them can be worrying. And you physically cannot worry if you're truly in the moment, right? Like you can't. You're right here, right now. I'm breathing. I'm talking to Amanda. I see myself on screen. I'm here. I can't worry about the past. I can't worry about the future. I can't ruminate about something I did 5 seconds ago that I didn't love. I am here. So when you practice being present, which a lot of times are like, what does that mean? Like, whatever. It just means the more that you can be like, I am here now. I am engaged. Then you have less of an opportunity to go crazy in your brain and start worrying, you know, about different things. So anyway, going back to the idea of curiosity, when you're curious about it, you're kind of like pillaring yourself into the moment, right? You're like, okay, so instead of worrying about what's wrong with me, what's going on, what's happening that I'm not like this amazing mom right now. What you say is like, you know, like, well, I wonder what's going on. Let me be curious about that. Well, I'm making this up, but like you didn't get a good night's rest because, you know, this is like my house all the time. Everyone's peeing the beds. Everyone's like scared, you know, whatever. It's part of life, right? So you didn't get a good night's rest. So you're probably like a little agitated. Okay. That could contribute to it. Why else? Well, you know, the bento box won't shut nicely anymore, and that's annoying you. And you have 3 kids who are having big emotion days and they're tantruming in the corner. Oh, this is why I probably don't like it in the moment right now. Again, nothing wrong with you personally, just the environment is not creating a circumstance for you to be in flow. And flow
Yeah, exactly.
really,
Or maybe you walked into the kitchen and it's an overflowing sink of dishes and your brain was just like, nope. It instantly was like, nope, I don't want to be in the kitchen right now. I don't want to look at the dishes. I don't want to have to wash the bento box that didn't make it into the dishwasher last night.
Right.
And it's okay.
And it is okay. And that's the thing, is like being able to give yourself grace and empathy and a little bit of wiggle room, right? And be like, it's okay. So we'll get to do that tomorrow. Like life is this like ever-long thing, hopefully for most of us, right? And there is time. There is time. You can do the bento box tomorrow. I know this is like a funny example that we have, but it's so true, right? And I'm sure your listeners are probably like, oh, I got the bento box thing happening at my house too.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's important to not beat up on past you too, because like to just continue on with this bento box, like analogy. So like if it's the fact that it's dirty, you normally on a good day would run the dishwasher before you go to sleep, right? So that you wake up and everything's clean, and you didn't get around to it last night for whatever reason. The reason literally doesn't matter. It's neutral. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter what it was. And so it's dirty today. Don't beat up on past you, because that was something that I caught myself in, like this trap all the time too, of just like beating up on last night me. Oh God, I wish I wouldn't have been so lazy. I know I was tired, but you know, you just got to push through. Otherwise you get behind. And now I'm behind before this day even started. And then you're just starting your whole day thinking that you're behind and thinking that you suck and you're going to have a horrible day.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. I agree with that. And I would do that in multiple situations, the negative self-talk.
Yeah.
And I think through like mindfulness and mindset work, right? And through coaching, what you can work on is strengthening. So I call it, you have like your voice of judgment, which is basically the person who is inside your head, who is just shitting on you like all day long, right? And it's just like, oh, like, of course you forgot that. Like, you're the worst. Like, oh my God, like that, you didn't do this, but look what this other mom did. Like, she's so much better than you. It's like that constant chatter, right? Of that negative self-talk.
Yeah.
The other side of that is your voice of wisdom, right? Who knows, like exactly what you're saying, Amanda, that you don't beat up on your past self anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's your voice of wisdom. That's like, everybody like drops the ball sometimes. That doesn't define you. Like you're amazing anyway, right? It's the voice of wisdom that's like, oh yeah, so-and-so, brought this amazing like platter to a party and you brought like a bag of chips. Well, good for them. Maybe they love doing that and you couldn't do that today because you had a crazy day at work, and it's okay, right? Like your voice of wisdom.
Yeah, and that's how like you guys balance each other out in that moment. Like if everybody brings an amazing platter, then there's just like an excess of amazing platters. It's okay. Someone has to bring the chips.
Right. Exactly. And like whatever you would say, but the goal is to have more of the voice of wisdom and less of the voice of judgment. Because if you are filled all day long with that negative self-talk, which is low vibrational, very low vibrational, your vibe, your brain, the energy that you put in the world is going to be very, very low. It's going to, that bad day is going to turn into a bad week, a bad month. Shit around you is going to start being crazy because that's not a high vibe at all. When you can talk, be more compassionate, empathetic, give yourself grace, have your voice of wisdom. Like oftentimes I have people personify them, we're like, my voice of judgment is like perfectionist Patty or perfectionist Penelope. And I'm like, all right, I hear ya. I'm like, but I'm driving the car today. Get to the back seat. Why did this Inside Out 2 movie? Oh my God, I loved it.
God, I loved it so much.
They put anxiety in that comfy chair with the like a little tea. I'm like, I'm doing that in my mind. Like, I get you, but go in that comfy chair over there, chill out, because my voice of wisdom, who's like this beautiful goddess, is coming in and she's gonna get me out of this today. So I think that's so great that you're doing that. And I'm sure you're teaching your clients that. And now you have, again, the trickle effect, right? Where like all
Yes.
these little learnings are coming down, and hopefully there's less of us feeling that shame and guilt and need to be this one perfect thing, right? And just
Yes.
be ourselves, be ourselves is the key.
Be our whole messy selves and love every bit of it, and
Right.
like going back to the Inside Out 2 movie where like the only way for those core emotions to get back was to like make that huge explosion, and all of those like icky memories that made them like, oh God, let's hide this. They had to come like flooding into, and, Disgust was like, but how do we know that these aren't going to become beliefs? And Joy was like, I don't, we just have to do it anyways. And they did become beliefs, but Riley needed all of her in order to function properly. She needs the messy bits and the bits that she likes. And so do we. Like, we need to have acceptance and love for our full selves. Because the goal is not perfection. The goal is not even like infinite happiness. Like, the goal is not to never be sad or mad or anything like that, because you can't appreciate happiness unless you've been sad. You can't appreciate sun until you've experienced, a week of rain and all of that stuff. Like, you need your whole self.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that movie. I was like, I went with a friend and her kids, and I like looked over and we were both like crying because, that all of that, like trying to fit into society and anxiety. So I did a recent post on LinkedIn about this. The way that they personified anxiety was perfect, because I hated her. She was like manipulative. She was like controlling and undermining. And she was like, like unhinged a little bit, and that's how I hate my anxiety. Like, I've had anxiety since I was young, and I do much better with it now that I have some mindfulness tools and practices and meditation and movement and all that stuff. But, it's still there, right? Like, if it's there, it's there. And I was like, what an amazing job they did, because I really hated her. And that's how I feel about my anxiety too. I'm like, I hate you when you come up. But then they talked about how she's there to protect. That's her main goal.
Yeah.
It's a little too much, right? And she's there to think of every scenario of how you might fail so that she can protect you. And then I felt empathy for her, and I felt bad for her, because she's caught in this, very like narrow vision of like protection, to the point where it's detrimental, right? And so anyway, for me, I felt very connected to all of that, because it's okay to have anxious thoughts or negative thoughts, but have awareness about them, right? To be like, oh, this is perfectionist Patty again. Once you have that awareness, you can have a choice of like what you're going to do with that, and have empathy for. Don't just continue to beat yourself up when those bad thoughts come up, or the anxiousness, right? Like, because you could do that too. Like, here you go again. You're spinning out of control. Like, you're the worst person. Like, you're never on time.
Oh yeah. And that comes up so much more now that I'm a coach, because there's a part of me that like this switch that happens when I'm experiencing anxiety or depression, or just I'm getting lost in my own head, just being a human. And that screams so much louder now, because it's like, you're a coach, you know better. You know how to get yourself out of this. Why are you even here to begin with? And it's like, because I'm fucking human. Stop.
Yes, exactly. Well, exactly. And, a lot of the stuff that like I talked to a couple of people, and that's it. They're like, oh, you're a coach, or, like I facilitate workshops and stuff, like you're the expert. And I always say that, like, maybe in this moment you consider me to be an expert because I've been doing this longer, and I've, whatever it is, it's like you have to read or do something for 10,000 hours, you're an expert. I'm probably there. But this is a practice that I have to do every day. And if I don't do it, I'm no longer like able to help others, right? Like I have to practice what I preach. And it's just because I'm, like you were saying, like you're the coach, like who do you think you are? Telling other people, like this is some of my like negative self-talk too. It's like the imposter syndrome, like you're teaching other people how to do this, but here you are like having a really crazy moment or whatever.
Yes.
And it's definitely one, because you're human, but two, that just reinforces what we're doing. It's like, this is a lifelong practice. Like this is something where you have what I always like say, like awareness gives you choice. So once you have the awareness, like, oh, like what is this negative thought that's happening here? Like, who's this jerk in my head being so mean to me? Why are they saying all that stuff? Okay, the awareness is there. Then you could be like, okay, I'm going to use some of the tools that I have and that I teach other people, and I'm going to try to get out of this. And some days are better than others. Some days aren't. And that's okay. And that's okay.
Yes, exactly. And then the thought that I always come back to is the fact that I am having this day where this is hard for me makes me the perfect person to help my people because I understand her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's so true because you do need connection, and that's like my company is called Live Connections because I feel like connection is like the heart of so many things, right? Like connection to nature, connection to self, connection to other people. When you can create authentic connections, like everything is possible. And that's it. Like you need to be relatable. You need to be able to make connections with people to help them. You know, you need to be able to kind of live, like to be able to say like, I know what that feels like. You know, I've had a similar experience. I got out on the other side as well. Maybe you want to try some of these things to get there too. And I think that does, at least for me, like the coaches that I have had, I don't want the most perfect person, sitting in their high tower. I want someone who is similar to me, is relatable, right? Who has experiences that can be connected to what I'm going through so that we can like get to the next level together. So that's great, Amanda. It's awesome.
Yes. And one more thought on Inside Out, because you were saying how like you really didn't like anxiety at all. And then, grew to have like empathy for her. I also really loved how when she first came and like introduced herself and started like, thinking in advance for Riley, the other emotions, except for Joy, because Joy always wants to be in charge. But all the other emotions were like, oh, wow, she's actually pretty good. Like they appreciated anxiety. And I think there is that moment too, where we kind of appreciate our anxiety for, thinking of things in advance so that, we're not making an ass out of ourselves or we protect ourselves from, that one thing. But like you said, if it's just her, then Riley's out of whack. And you can say that for any of the emotions too. And that's the thing that we learned in the first Inside Out with Joy. Like the point of life is not to always be 100% happy. Joy cannot be at the forefront of the console 100% of the time because then Riley's out of whack. It really is like this collaboration of all of the emotions working the way that they're designed to work together for Riley to be whole.
Yeah. I know that movie. It's just, they do such an amazing job. And I feel like it's great for children too, to start to be able to identify when they're starting to have big emotions or have negative self-talk. Like what's going on? Like, why is this happening? And why is it important? And why, and having that awareness so that you could be like, oh, I'm going to navigate this like differently. And with my kids, with the first one, we would always be like, oh, is this anger or is this joy or is this sadness? Right. And like, you can kind of, again, personify, the emotion that's going on. And with the anxiety thing, to your point, when she came in and everybody was like, wow, she's pretty good. Anxiety, a lot of times I look back on my success, and my anxiety was a big part of my success. And I think that if I had some of the tools that I have now and I had less anxiety, I still would have gotten there, but maybe differently, maybe a slightly slower. So it's not like totally a bad thing. It's just that when it's out of control, it can drive you to a point that is not sustainable, and probably is not making people feel content, because if it's just too much, you're living in a constant state of in the past or in the future. You're not in the moment. So it's really hard to feel fulfilled. So it, like, I think about that all the time. I'm like, and in the movie where Riley has the anxiety and she's like practicing. I'm like, oh my God, How many times have I done that? Whether it was sports, because I did a lot of sports, or whether it was work stuff. You know, I had like a big pitch or a big presentation, and I would just like kill it. And then I'm like up all night. Like, what if this happens? What if that? Like, all of that, again, got me to a point of success. But I do think that there are other ways that we can get there. And like, there's this line, I'm trying to remember who said it. But it's basically like, you're pushed by perfection until maybe purpose pulls you, right? So it's like, you know, our whole lives can be very much, you can be successful, you can be killing life, right? But be very driven by restriction and perfection and judgment. Or you can be pulled by purpose and you let go of some of that and you're your most authentic self, and you'll still get there, and you'll probably get there with like a little bit more of a smile on your face. Not all the time. But yeah, I know that movie is both those movies are so good. I enjoyed it so much.
Good. They're so good. I can't stand how good they are. The way that they explain all this crazy shit that happens inside of all of our heads is just so beautiful. And the fact that they have brought it to a level where children can understand it too, it's just such a beautiful service to all of us.
I know. Amazing. It really is. It really is.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm going to pull up my lightning questions. We'll move into that portion. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be the first woman president.
I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Of course, I had like no idea what that actually entailed, but I liked the idea.
Right. What is your favorite kid-free dinner? So if you are picking dinner and no picky eaters are allowed to bitch, moan, or complain, what are we eating?
Are we going out or am I cooking it?
Whatever you want.
Ooh. I am doing like a seafood extravaganza. So,
what kind of seafood extravaganza?
So I like love lobster. So I do like lobster, shrimp, and then I do like other seafood as well. I'm recently vegetarian the past year. So, so I'm actually like the picky eater these days because everyone's like eating meat. I'm like, not me. But yeah, I think I would do that. And like my kids don't eat that, you know, they're like, where are the chicken fingers? So.
Right. Yeah. They're like, I don't want this lobster. I just want a chicken nugget in the shape of a dinosaur.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What is your favorite book?
This one's hard because I'm like reading so much. I would say The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
One of my other guests said that was her favorite book too. And I have it. It's on my shelf and I'm going to be reading it once I finish up the ones that I'm reading right now.
I mean, I know these are like rapid fire, but like a quick thing about that is, it really puts perspective in letting like people's opinions and emotions like flow through you instead of affecting you, and instead of life just happening to you, like feeling like you're a victim of maybe like controversy or conflict or drama that happens in our lives, really gives you a perspective of like, oh, you know, my best friend hates me now. Okay. Like, what about that? You know what I mean? Like, be curious about it, like let it pass through. Of course, there, you know, we're all going to have like grief, emotions, all that stuff, but it's a really great perspective on how to truly be mindful. So I like that one.
I love that. I can't wait to read it. What is your guilty pleasure entertainment?
Okay. So I've been really into Bridgerton. Lately. And I love like action history pieces. I love Game of Thrones. So I'm like into
love Game of Thrones.
All of the like related series like that. So that would be my guilty pleasure. The Bridgerton one is kind of funny because it's like so like old school thinking. It's, you know, basically like women are just born to like find a husband. And then I really like some of the perspectives of how in this series, these really smart women are kind of like navigating that. Right. And you know, it's interesting.
Yeah, I've tried Bridgerton like once when it first came out, and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. And I don't watch a ton of TV. So for me, I was just like, I'm moving on, because if I'm watching something, it's like kind of a precious time for me. So it has to be something that like I really love.
Yeah. You got to do, is it a yes or a no? And like, don't put anything else into it. And then if it's a no, you got to move on. We don't have time. That's it.
Exactly. My mom just cannot let it go, though. She's just like, but it's so good. Why don't you just give it another chance? I'm like, because I don't want to.
Yeah. I will say I didn't do it when it first came out, because I was like, this isn't me. And then I just kind of threw it on, and I was like, oh, it like piqued my interest. So
nice. So you found something unexpected.
Yes, but I'm with you. Like, if it's not interesting, don't do it. Don't waste the time.
Right. Yes. But I'm with you on Game of Thrones. My second born is named after one of the characters. Her name is Arya.
Ooh, yes.
Yes. So love Game of Thrones. This question I've stolen from the Low Life podcast because it's too good not to steal. If your belly button was an actual button, what would it do?
I think it would release like a positive energy. Like I would like press it and it would be like,
So is that a positive energy just for you or for like anybody within your sphere too?
Ooh, I was thinking just for me, but I like extending it outside too. Almost like a magic fairy dust that would come out.
Yeah.
I like that. Yes. Yes. Thank you for helping me elevate.
I love that. And finally, what's one thing in motherhood you'd like to say fuck it to?
The school, like dress up stuff. Where
like the theme days.
Yes, like the theme
I hate
days.
that so much.
Yes, and I will do them because my kids are into it, but I do feel like that is one part. I mean, maybe it's not exactly motherhood, but it's like a halo effect.
No,
like
that counts.
Okay,
that absolutely counts.
Because it's just really hard. Like, you know, you're busy enough, and then there's some schedule somewhere that's not always making it home as a reminder before the week starts. And you probably, like for me, I'm always like missing the first day of the spirit week or whatever. And my kids are mad that they didn't wear yellow like a chicken for friendship or something. And then like, I'm like, okay, where's the calendar? Like I have it somewhere saved somewhere. And then I'm like, all right, like, what's our next day? Like crazy sock day for acceptance or whatever, which I do love all those themes. I do. Like, I mean, look at us. This is what we do. We want people to be, you know, elevated as human beings, but it's just something about the way that it is. It just feels like rushed and crazy for me. So I would fuck that. I would say fuck it.
Yes. I hate it so much. And there's just too many. Like, it's fine if it's like one day, one random day, but they'll do like spirit weeks, you know, like you were saying, where like every day is a new thing. And they really love doing that shit around Christmas. And I'm like, fuck off. I have extra stuff on my plate because of the holidays. And you want to add Grinch theme and candy cane stripes. My kids don't have red and white striped things. I'm not buying 4 new outfits that they're going to wear exactly one time to this random day at school. Yeah. No, absolutely. Fuck that.
I know. And it's like, and this is what I always do. I'm like, I have like empathy, and like, I totally understand why it's fun for the kids and it's fun for some people, but just for me, in that moment, I'm like, oh my God. And there's always like some colored shirt that is in the wash exactly when you need to wear it on the Wednesday or whatever. It's like, you know, a purple shirt or something. And I'm like, where's the purple shirt? So yeah. So that would be my one thing.
I love that. So let people know where they can get in touch with you if they'd like to connect.
Yes. So I am on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Live Connections. I'm also on LinkedIn. And if anybody wants to connect with me, like, I feel like the best way to find out how we can work together or how I can help like their company or something is to have a conversation, because I'm sure you feel this way too, Amanda. Like, every situation is slightly different, and I'm not for everybody, as we talked about earlier. So the best way to say, hey, I want to have a conversation, you could always message me on all the social media platforms, but you could email me so it's Olivia@liveconnections.com. And that's how people can get in
Perfect.
touch with me.
Awesome. And I will put all those links in the show description for this episode. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really loved this conversation.
I really love this conversation too, Amanda. You're great, and your clients are lucky to work with you. Thanks for having me on here.
Thank you.
Are you living your one wild life to the fullest? You're not? Why the fuck not? What are you waiting for? The time to live is now, mama. Do not wait until your youngest is in college. Let your dreams hire me for an hour so I can explain how I can help you achieve any goal in your life. You've put yourself off long enough. It's time to pour into you. The link to schedule your 60-minute complimentary consultation is in my show notes. Join the community of Fuck It Moms by following me on Instagram and Facebook at Fuck It Mothering. That's fuck without the U. So FCK It Mothering. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you never miss your weekly encouragement. And please rate, review, comment, and share. All of these things help with the algorithms, so that way when other overwhelmed moms are looking for encouragement, they can find me. Every month, I give away one of my favorite books and a Starbucks card to a lucky winner. All you have to do to enter is write a review or tag me in social media when you share an episode. See you next Sunday, gorgeous.